News. So how these sessions work, it's exactly 60 minutes. We have a hard finish on the hour, and there's going to be 30 minutes of content. Our content for today is how to pre-qualify clients and avoid time wasters. 30 minutes of content, and then I have a couple of short announcements. I'll tell you about some upcoming events, and then I'll answer questions. So if you have a question for me, it's really simple. Just put it into the comments or the chat box, wherever you are. Please, though, if you have a question, put 2 capital Qs in front. And the reason for that is because, as you perhaps already noticed, certainly if you're on YouTube, you'll have noticed, we get people commenting all the time. Please do comment. Dan's here again from Colorado, so great to see you, Dan. And also from New York, we have Jennifer Henderson as well. So please keep the comments coming. But if you have a question for me, ask. Just put 2 QQs in front, just because, just like Sarah's done here. Okay, that's what 2 capital Qs look like, just in case you weren't sure. It just helps me to see when we get to the questions, make sure I don't miss your question. And you can ask a question about anything you like. It doesn't have to be today's content. Anything you feel I can help you with, please ask. And also, if you do have a burning question, the sooner you ask it, the better, because sometimes we run out of time. I can't answer all the questions if a lot come in. So get your questions in as soon as they pop into your head. Okay, a couple of other quick announcements to mention. Most of you who are regulars will know that one of the things we do is every month we have a chosen charity to help make the world a better place. We pick a project every month, and for everybody who comes live, I've made a mistake today. I know I have. I'm sorry, Sarah. Everybody who comes live, we make a contribution on your behalf. So we get the stats afterwards. We know who shows up across the various platforms, and we make a presentation. I've actually skipped ahead to April. We're still in March, aren't we? I was getting a bit ahead of myself. This is April's project we've chosen, where sanitation is a big issue in schools in some parts of the world in Africa. But actually, that's not today's project. Our March project is actually what we're doing is for each and every one of you here live, we are providing a day's worth of water to, I think it's people in Tigray, if I remember right from the live stream yesterday. I was a bit ahead of myself. That's what I'll be doing next week. That's the project for April. Okay, apologies about that one. There we go. But anyway, thank you for coming live. When you come live to our sessions, you are helping make the world a better place. If you are new and you've never been before to one of these sessions, another quick announcement: if you ever struggle with pricing cleanup work, I wrote a ebook a couple of months back, 28-page ebook. If you'd like a free copy of that, teaching you how to price cleanup projects, we will put the link. Sarah will put the link in the comments, the chat box, wherever you are. So look out for that link. It should be coming your way fairly soon. I see that we have Linda is here from Florida, Orlando. Hi there, Linda. Good to see you. I know you hardly miss a session either. Okay, before we dive in, just 2 more quick things. Let me tell you, I'll tell you about the upcoming events soon, but I thought I'd tell you now as well, just so you know, because I'm really excited by next week's events. We have 2 live streams next week. The first of those will be same time as this one, Tuesday. And Tuesday, I have a special guest who is our head of marketing, Emily. And Emily and I will be sharing with you how to grow your accounting firm in 2023. We're going to be talking about what's hot right now in marketing. And it'll be 60 minutes. We've got plenty to share with you, and we'll be answering your marketing questions. So if you want to grow your firm, whether you're an accountant, a bookkeeper, if you want to grow this year, 2023 is this year, isn't it? If you want to grow, then come along to next week's session. We'll be sharing with you what's hot in marketing. And on Wednesday, I'm really excited to share with you, again as my special guest, I've got Emily, and the 2 of us, we're going to take you through what is ChatGPT. And we're going to give you 5 practical ways that you can use it. If you have no idea what it is, you need to be here on Wednesday, because this is the biggest thing. This is that I've come across for a long time now. Artificial intelligence has really taken off. This is going to change your life in major ways, and you need to be jumping on this fast. This is huge. And you can save huge amounts of time, get so much more done. We're going to give you some practical uses of it next week. That's Wednesday's session, all about ChatGPT. In fact, on that question, let me just do a quick straw poll in the audience, wherever you are. Just put in the chat box, if you've never heard of it, let me know. If you have, are you using it? And if you use it and are doing some great things with it, let me know. What's your experience of ChatGPT? And if you never heard of it, that's fine. Just let me know in the chat box. Let me just get a feel for who uses it, who doesn't, who has no idea what we're talking about. That would be quite cool. And I will probably come back to that. I'll come back and look at whatever comes into the comments soon on that. Okay, well, actually, the first person to comment, not a surprise, is Lisa. She's never heard of it. Okay, Lisa, you need to be here on Wednesday, but I know you will because you come to every live session. Yes, you need to be here. Jessica used it occasionally. I'm really surprised. You're going to use it a lot more after Wednesday, I promise, because other people. Oh, someone from LinkedIn. Awesome. Is that? Forgive me if I get this wrong, Dianesh, if I pronounce that right, I hope so. And he says, yes, love it. Kimberly's never heard of it. John's trialing it for research and has its faults. Yes, it has some faults. You must be aware of the limitations, and we'll talk about those on Wednesday. There are some limitations. You need to be aware. You need to use it with care, but it's extremely powerful. Now, I could keep going with some people have dabbled with it. Some people have just installed it. Some have heard of it but don't use it yet. You will be, Dan. Sharon's tried it once. The problem, the challenge with it, and one of the things we'll talk about on Wednesday is, where do you start with it? What can you use it for? And so we'll be sharing with you, like Linda's experimenting, we'll be sharing some use cases because some people, like Glenn, says it's pretty incredible. Okay, you're pretty switched on. Yes, you've done an entire lead magnet using ChatGPT. There are so many powerful things. I don't know your name, Increase Tree. Anyway, love it. It saves hours. It can save you hours of time every week. I mean hours. It's saving us huge amounts of time right now. We're having real fun with it. Hi there, Kyle. Good to see you from Texas. And Linda's got access to Bard now because Google have been panicking with this, and Google have just brought out, literally in the last few days, weeks, have just brought out Bard, which is also, by the way, infallible. There are some problems with Bard, as you probably are aware, Linda. Okay, I could keep going, but I want to get into the content. So I'm just going to make a little note to myself of where I got to with the comments. Just in case nobody asks any questions, we've got 25 minutes at the end, 20 minutes where I can always read out the comments. But anyway, let's get into today's topic, which, as you know, is all about pre-qualifying clients. So let's get started. Not all clients are good clients. One of the things that I found a big challenge in our profession from talking to other accountants and bookkeepers is we can spend so much time wasting time having meetings with the pain in the arse clients, the PITA clients, the BMWs, the bitches, the moaners, the whingers, the pain in the arse clients, the tire kickers, the ones that just want somebody cheap. They want looking for a cheap accountant, cheap bookkeeper. So that's the big problem, that our time's precious. You're busy, you're crazy busy, and we haven't got the time to waste time with the wrong clients. Not all clients are good clients. There are bad clients, as you probably know. You probably have clients right now in your client base that you don't really enjoy dealing with. I think about when I ran my accounting firm back in, I started in 1996. That's how old I am. And when I started in May 1996, I thought it was all about trying to get as many clients as possible. I grew crazy fast. I took on anybody. Anybody that was breathing could be a client. And I grew crazy fast. I grew from 0 clients up to 200 clients in just over 2 years. And I thought I was brilliant. I thought I was doing all the right things until I realized 2 years down the line, my life was a complete mess. I was working crazy, crazy hours and struggling to make ends meet. And I realized a little while later, 3 years into my business, into my accounting firm, that I'd made some crazy mistakes, and one of which was Not being choosy as to who I took on as a client. I didn't pre-qualify. Anybody would do. Yes, I grew fast, but it wasn't the right thing to do. So what we have to recognize is it's not about winning every client. We don't want every client. We just want the best clients. We want the good clients. And interestingly, when you get better at things like pricing, so I talk about pricing a lot, the more that you improve the way that you price, the more you put up your prices, the more you improve your positioning and talk about the value you create and focus on value as opposed to costs. The more you focus on value, the more you charge better prices. Interestingly, you start to attract better clients. And as you start to attract better clients, you can be choosy. There's firms I know that have absolutely got that and understand it. One is Jessica Fox, who tells me she has a waiting list. Wouldn't that be a great place to be? To have a waiting list where we've closed the doors. You have to wait because then you can choose. That's really where we need to get to. That's our goal, to get to the stage where we can pick and choose the clients that we want. So we're going to talk about how do you pre-qualify, and we have to have some sort of pre-qualification process. I'm going to take you through today 3 systems that you can put in place. We'll look at 3 systems. We'll look at 3 steps that you can put in place, the steps you put in place, and then some systems that you can use. Just to give you a bit more of my own story, so I said to you, I started in 1996. I thought it was about winning every single client. And I remember, for example, one particular, I think I was about a year into my business, into my sole practitioner business. And I remember getting a telephone call from a lady who asked, she said she just taken over the running of a pub. And she was looking for an accountant, asked if I could sort out her books and records, her accounts, her tax returns, and so on. I said, yes, of course, more than happy to do that. And she said, can we have a meeting fairly soon? And I said, yes. And then she asked if I could come round to her pub to have the meeting. I said yes, because I just say yes to everything. Well, at least I did say yes to everything. And so I then set off to this lady's pub that she'd taken over, which was at least a half-hour drive. It wasn't in the town I was living in. I had to travel quite a way to get there. And when I got there, it was a bit of a rundown pub. It wasn't a particularly nice one. Anyway, I went into the pub and met the lady. And we sat down, had a conversation. And I asked her, what are the sorts of things you need help with? And as I asked her questions, I realized she knew nothing about business, nothing whatsoever, ever. She'd never been in business before. She didn't know anything about taxes. She didn't know about anything about bookkeeping, record keeping, other than the fact she had bought one of those red cathedral books. Now, if you're as old as me and from the UK, you might remember the days long ago, well before cloud accounting systems. And back in the 1990s, a lot of small businesses used these red cash books, cathedral books with columns already pre-printed that you could put the numbers in, add and total columns at the bottom. She'd been and bought one of those from probably a stationery store, and she had a whole box full of some initial receipts and things she'd got, and said, what do I do with this lot? So I sat with her and started talking her through how she keeps a cash book and how she adds it up, what she does with the bits of paper and so on. I spent quite a long time with her, helping her out. She was so pleased. I then drove back, and over the next 3-4 weeks, she kept ringing up. She kept asking questions. She had loads of questions. She knew nothing about running a business. I spent a long time helping her on the phone, meetings, emails. And after a couple of months, she just started. And so I wasn't a bookkeeper. She was doing her own bookkeeping. I was going to be doing her end of year financial statements and taxes. So she just started out. And normally back then, when I was an accountant, I wouldn't raise an invoice until I'd finished doing the end of year financial statements or the tax return. But I realized in this case that, and back then I kept timesheets, another crazy thing to do, but I kept timesheets. And after about 2 months of this, I'd realized that I'd spent a lot of time helping this lady out. And so I thought, you know what? I need to send her an invoice. So I added up the time on the timesheet, sent out the invoice, and waited. And waited. And it all went a little bit quiet. I chased a few times. I kept chasing. And after about probably 6 or 7 weeks, she wasn't answering my telephone calls. She wasn't answering my emails. It had gone really, really quiet. And about 2 months later, I happened to be going to visit another client that was in the same sort of area. And I drove past the pub, and it had outside a big board saying for sale. She hadn't even lasted 6 months in business. And that wasn't the only time I had that story. I realized looking back that it was a crazy client. It was never going to be a client that was going to be successful in business. She was never going to survive in business. She knew nothing about business. She was totally disorganized. And I should have known that. My gut feel said that. But I was in that mindset of every client's a good client. It all helps towards my top level fees in my financial statements. So I realized that no, we have to change. And the first time I realized this was towards the end of 1998. I'd been in business for 2.5 years. And looking back, I was clearly a very slow learner. But towards the end of 1998, I met somebody, I know you may even know, Steve Pipe, a good friend of mine now, one of my heroes, mentors. We worked together for over a decade later. But I first met him on a 3-day accountants masterclass, which was in November 1998. And one of the things that he said was, he said the importance of having an ideal client profile. I'd never heard of that before, never heard of it. And so when we think about this problem of wasting time meeting the wrong clients, there are really 3 things we have to do. And the first thing we have to do to solve that is we have to be really crystal clear about who is the right client, who is the right client, and who's the wrong client. And so we need to have what's called an ideal client profile. We need to have in writing. It only needs to be a single page, but we should document, what does the right client look like? What is an ideal client profile? Who's right for us and who's wrong? And so you want to start thinking about, if you've not done this exercise, this is so powerful, because I did this exercise at the end of 1998 and I realized that by that point I had way over 200 clients. And I realized that way over half of them were not the sort of client I really wanted. In my case, I just started doing business advisory work, and I realized that what I really wanted to do was, I wanted to work with ambitious clients who were business owners of a particular size, typically at least a six-figure revenue sales. Ideal client would be a small corporate with 1 or 2 directors, 1 or 2 shareholders looking to grow their business. And so I started to think about what is the right type of client. And you need to do the same thing. And this might mean thinking about, what's the right sort of size of business is right for you? What size do you like? I like people between 100,000 and 1 million, because they were big enough to have got started, they were established, and they were usually in a position where they didn't know enough about how to grow their business. So I helped them a lot with pricing and marketing, building a more successful business. I also came from a tax background, and there were lots of tax planning opportunities with growing businesses. So what sort of size is the right size for your ideal client? You might want to think about what sector, what type of business is your ideal client. Do you love working with, for example, other professions, like, for example, architects, lawyers? Is it the tradespeople? Is it engineering? Is it manufacturing? Is it e-commerce businesses? What's the right type of client for you? Who do you love dealing with? What about things like their age and their personality? Are there particularly, do you like working with perhaps younger clients who are new entrepreneurs who are into tech and stuff? Or do you prefer working with people who are perhaps a little bit later in life, perhaps thinking about retirement? What about their personality? What sort of clients do you like? Do you like clients with fun personalities? Do you like ones that are miserable? I don't know. What sort of personality? What sort of length of time do you like them to have been in business? Are you happy, for example, to work with business startups? Or would you rather having established businesses, ones that are perhaps at the other end of the spectrum where they might be looking to sell the business soon? There's a whole bunch of different factors you want to think about. You need to be really clear on who is the right type of client. I found that when I did this analysis at the end of 1998, I realized that a very big part of my client base then was business startups. And I think the reason for that was because I was a startup. I started in 1996, and because I was starting my accounting firm, I guess because of that, I was attracting people who were business startups. And I found that very often, because I didn't understand pricing at the time, like the lady who took over the pub, I would often spend a lot of time holding their hand, helping them get set up. And I didn't know how to charge for that. So I do the work for free, hoping, praying and hoping that when it came to eventually doing a project like their tax return, their end of year financial services statements, I would then catch up. I would then be able to bill all the time I'd spent on the initial helping them. And that never happened. And I realized that for me, business startups weren't my ideal client. So that's the first thing you have to do. You have to be really clear on who is the right client for you. And I know sometimes people struggle with that. One way of doing that is look at your client base now. And who are the A-grade clients? Who are the clients you really love working with? And if you can identify who they are, then ask yourself the question, what is it about these clients that I love? Are they in a particular industry? Have they got a particular personality? Are they a particular size? The clients you love working with the most now, they're the sorts of clients you want to be getting. So that's step one. Step one is you need to be clear on who is the right client. Step two is you then need to think about your positioning. What I mean by that is that's how you come across in the marketplace. What are the words on your website? Does your website make it very clear about who you want to work with, who is an ideal client? Or are you one of those accounting firms that on your website pretty much says, we work with anybody, anybody. And the problem with that is if your website is vague and suggests you work with anybody, then you're going to get anybody. So you want to make sure that once you've thought clearly about the ideal client profile, how does your website reflect that? And if you have brochures, for example, how does that reflect it? If you have lead pages, landing pages, whatever, how does all that reflect your positioning? And when I mean positioning is you want to position yourself as the experts, because we're in the knowledge business. You're selling solutions, you're selling results, you're selling knowledge. And the best clients want to work with the best accountant. The best clients want to work with the best bookkeeper. And so we want to make it clear on our websites, for example, in our brochures, we want to make it clear everywhere, what are we the experts at? And what's our ideal client that we help? What are the results that you get for people? And so the words on your website are really, really important. You want to be very clear. I came across a great accountant who reached out to me a couple of years ago. They wanted me to do some work with them. I said no because I don't do one-to-one work, but they wanted some help. They were a firm in Ireland, and I checked out their website, and they were very, very clear. They had a niche which was, I think it was farming. An interesting one. Farming I never touched when I was in practice. For me, that would have been a nightmare. But they specialize in farming, and every part of their website was all geared towards farming, which is great. Because if I was, let's say, running an engineering business and I was looking for a new accountant and I came across their website, if I'd have seen their website specializing in farming, then I'd have moved on to somebody else, which is great because it would have saved me time. Because why would I waste time talking to an accountant that specializes in something else? And it saved the accountant time because they wouldn't have taken me on if I was an engineering business. So you want to make it very clear on your website. Who do you serve? What is your ideal client profile? So that's the second step you want to do. Step one, what is the ideal client profile? What's the right client? Step two, does your positioning, does your website, for example, the words in your brochure, does that all reflect that? And then number three, the third step then is we need to put in place pre-qualification systems. We need to make sure that when somebody does reach out to you and you have a meeting with them, that they are the right client, because your time is precious. So let me give you 3 systems that you could put in place to help ensure that you are talking to the right people. So the first one that you could have is what's often called a customer intake form. Essentially, this is a questionnaire. This is about asking somebody some questions before you agree to have a meeting. So this is something that you could build into your website. If you've got a web designer, they could perhaps do it for you. You could have a link to a tool like SurveyMonkey or Typeform. There's a number of different survey tools that you could use. It's not difficult to do this. And what you want to do is ask people questions before they have a meeting with you. How many questions is entirely up to you, and it depends. If you're starting out your new firm right now, perhaps you don't want to have too many obstacles in the way, but the more you, if you've got to the stage where you're busy and you're in that luxury position where you can have a waiting list, then you want to make sure that you really are weeding out the wrong people. So have some great questions that you get people to answer as part before they can have a meeting with you. I think I might be right in saying that as well as tools like SurveyMonkey and Typeform and so on, I think there are some systems that allow you to build that into, some systems that do calendar, automate your calendar booking systems, appointment systems, where you can build some questions there. So check out your particular preferred calendar booking system, because that might be a system that you can use for the pre-qualification process. So what questions might you ask as part of that system, as part of that customer intake form? Well, they could be questions to help you identify if they are your ideal client. So think about step 1, think about your ideal client profile that you've created. If you are looking for people who are in business of a certain size of business, perhaps there's a minimum and a maximum, you could ask questions therefore about what's the size of their business, what's their annual revenue. And if you only want to work with people between $500,000 and $2 million, and they've just started out and they've got 10,000 as revenue, then that would suggest that's not an ideal client. You would say no. It may be you have questions about their profitability, questions about what sector they're in, what business industry are they in. So think about your profile, the step 1 you've done, and use that as the basis of creating a few questions to identify the type of business. Other questions you might want to ask is, you might want to ask questions about what's important to them. What's important? Is it important that, for example, if you're in your practice, you want to start moving towards doing more business advisory work, and therefore perhaps you've decided you want clients that are ambitious, that want to grow their business. They want an accountant or a bookkeeper that's going to do more than just simple number crunching. They're going to go beyond the compliance work and help them build a more successful business. Then if that's what you're looking for, then you might want to ask some questions to discover, to find out if they're interested in support beyond the compliance work. And if they say, no, I'm just interested in someone to do my tax return, to do my bookkeeping, that might suggest they're not the right mindset, the right attitude, the right sort of client for you. You might want to ask questions like, how frequently would you like to meet with your accounting professional? Because business owners that want to meet with you more frequently, that want to work closer with you, are more likely to be the sorts of people that are serious about their business, that want to grow a great business, that will value the relationship that you have, and therefore be willing to pay higher prices. If the more someone values the relationship, then the more you can do with them, the more that you can put the price up. You can have higher prices. You also might want to ask questions about what are their challenges right now? What are their pain points? What are the problems that they're facing? And that will help you to identify whether they're the sort of client that you could help. Are they problems that you're an expert in, for example? So that's the first system. You may want to ask some questions before you agree to a meeting. And one of the things that we do in the Value Pricing Academy is we teach something called the appointment generation system, where we systemize the whole process from the positioning through to the process where we explain and about the sort of firm that we are and the process that we take them through. If they want to have a meeting, we have a survey system, right through to the ultimate meeting with the client. So think about your process, your system for the entire process of from somebody first coming across you to that first meeting. What are you going to do? How are you going to automate that? How are you going to make sure that you pre-qualify? Okay, so that's the first system you might want to have, some form of customer intake system. Second system to think about is you will from time to time get people call you, I guess, ringing up, saying they're looking for a new accountant or a new bookkeeper. Can you tell me what it will cost? Or they might email you and they ask you the price question. If somebody calls you and asks the price question, then that should raise a red flag. That might suggest they're just price shopping. They're looking for the cheapest. And I would suggest to you that's probably not the right sort of client. But not necessarily. We need to find out more. So you need to make sure that you have a system, a script, the words that you say to explain to somebody asking about the price. You need to explain that you have a different process, that you want to make sure that you explain in that script the sorts of clients you're looking for. The ideal client. You're looking for ambitious business owners, for example. And you also want to build into that script and explain that every client is different. Every client is different. Everybody has different needs, different wants. And you can't give a price until you better understand what their needs and their wants are. And for that reason, you have to have a diagnostic meeting first to get to know each other and see if you're a good fit for each other. And before you do that, you might want to do the customer intake form. So you need to make sure that you have a script, not just for you, but for any member of your team that deals with clients or potential clients, where from time to time they'll ring up and say, I'm looking for a new accountant or bookkeeper. What's the price? And if they insist on a price and they won't take the next step without a price, they're not the right client. You say no to them. So that's system number 2. You need a system for dealing with the inquiries where the focus is around price. You want to have that script that you use. Number 3, the third pre-qualification process is my favorite. And it's this. One of the things that most firms of accountants do, and it's what I used to do, and we know this because it's on almost every website, is if you go to an accountant's website or a bookkeeper's website, you'll almost certainly see the word somewhere on the website that says, book your free initial consultation. We offer free initial consultations. I hate that. I hate that for so many reasons. Firstly, if every accountant and every bookkeeper is offering a free initial consultation on their website, how does that differentiate you when you're saying the same thing as everybody else? Also, there's this thing that you may have heard of, that if something's is free, people don't value it. People don't value free. And I think back to when I was running my accounting firm many years ago. I said earlier, I came from a tax background. When I met with a potential new client, I would ask them about their business. I would ask them for a copy of their last set of financial statements, and I would come up with usually 2, 3, or 4 great tax planning ideas. I would deliver huge amounts of value in that initial consultation, which I used to do for free because I didn't know any better. And people don't appreciate the value. You probably, when you meet potential clients, I bet you deliver huge amounts of value. You'll give them some advice. You'll give them some initial ideas around solving whatever their pain points are, their problems, their challenges. But because it's phrased as a free initial consultation, people don't value that. So one of the things that, certainly in the Value Pricing Academy, a lot of the firms that I work with now, they now charge for the initial consultation. It's not free. You have to pay a price. And the reason this is my favorite pre-qualification process is because this is the ultimate pre-qualifier. If somebody's willing to pay you a couple of $100s for initial meeting, then they are sufficiently serious about their business and serious about working with you to pay that. If somebody's not willing to pay that, then they're probably not the right customer. If I think about the lady that took over the pub all those years back in 1996, 97, she wouldn't have paid a fee, which would have been great, because that would have saved me a huge amount of time that I waste over the next couple of months. It's better that you find that out early. No's okay. You want to get comfortable with people saying no. That's fine. There's plenty of clients out there. You haven't got time to waste it on the bad ones out there. So asking for a fee for the initial meeting is a great way of doing it. If I can give you some examples of people that I've worked with. So a wonderful lady that's been in the Value Pricing Academy for many years from Texas. Her name is Jan Bodar. She came to me a few years ago, asked if I could help her with pricing her cleanup projects. And one of the things that she talked about is she would always start off by doing a diagnostic review. Many people do a diagnostic review to find out what's the problem, what's the scope of the work. And most people would do that for free. So I helped Jan to create a system whereby she charged a fee. And the fee that she went with was $250. And she said to me the very first meeting she had with a client, they didn't bat an eyelid. They had no problem with paying $250. And she then went in, spent a couple of hours doing a bit of diagnostic work, discovered what was wrong, and then I helped her to create the proposal, and she got a big fee for the cleanup. So she charged $250 for the diagnostic. Now, she now knows that was probably too cheap. It could have been more. I know people for a diagnostic, I know of people who charge 4-figure sums for doing the diagnostic. And it works. We do it because it's a pre-qualifier. Now, sometimes people say, Mark, what's the right price for a diagnostic? And actually, the price isn't so much important. When you then do the big project, whether it's a cleanup project, whether it's doing their annual financial statements, whatever it might well be, price is really important. But for the initial meeting, whether it's a diagnostic, whether it's an initial meeting, the price itself isn't quite so important. What's really important is just having a price. It's the pre-qualifier. If somebody's willing to pay that amount, they're likely to be a good client. If they're not willing to pay that, they're never going to value you. Another accountant that I've worked with for many years, you may have heard of him. He's doing some great stuff now and helping other accountants. Reza Huda in the UK. Reza joined the Value Pricing Academy, I think back in 2014 or early 2015. And as we worked together, he put in place a system as well where anybody who wants to be a client of Reza's firm, they had to pay an initial fee up front for the initial meeting. It was £197 in his case, sterling, and he did something very interesting. He gave them he said there were 3 things that could happen. You pay £197, and at the end of the meeting, if you like what you see, then we can start working together. Or you pay £197, and we're going to give you so much advice in that meeting, you're going to love it, but you don't have to work with us. And the third one is you pay £197, you have a meeting, and if you don't feel it's valuable, you can ask for your money back. He said to me last time we spoke about this, nobody ever asks for their money back, because nobody does. A guarantee is extremely powerful because it then demonstrates that you are going to add value in that meeting. And there are many, many more examples I could give you of accounting firms who are now charging for those initial consultations. So let me just remind you what we've covered. So we've looked at the 3 steps, the 3 things you need to do. Number 1, be really clear on who is the right client. Have an ideal client profile. Number 2, your positioning. Make sure everything, your website, your brochures, everything is clear. Makes it clear to somebody else that comes across you. It's clear who is the right type of client. So only the right people reach out to you. And number 3, have systems in place. And we've looked at 3 systems. The customer intake form, which is a questionnaire people might fill in before they're allowed to have a meeting with you. You need to have a system for what happens if somebody calls you or emails you just asking for a price. And you also want to consider the system of charging for the initial consultation. Okay, we've got 20 minutes and I'm going to answer as many questions as I can. Before I do that, I don't know if she's still here or not. I think she is. Jessica was here. I mentioned Jessica earlier. Jessica's a genius at this. And she said to me, don't know if I got this right or not, Jessica, but I think you said in a recent session that you have a waiting list of over 100 people, which I think is extraordinary. Jessica has amazing, she's very systemized. She really gets this stuff. She's been a member of the Value Pricing Academy for many, many years, and she gets this stuff, and she has systems in place for pre-qualification, which is why I was a bit surprised when Jessica showed up, because she's the expert at this. Anyway, one of the things I wanted to tell you about before we dive into the questions is sometimes people say to me, Mark, I'm not ready for the Value Pricing Academy yet, or Mark, where can I start with working with you? And one of the things we launched just a few weeks back was something called the Profitable Growth Academy. So if you want more support, help in building a more successful accounting firm, but you are not yet ready to join the Value Pricing Academy, we launched the Profitable Growth Academy as a great place to start. And it looks something like this. Sarah's going to put a link in the chat box, the comments box at some point. And this is, at the moment, there's an opportunity for you to be a founder member. Founder members are going to get in at a crazy low price, and that price you will lock in forever. I'm not going to tell you the price now because it depends whether you're in the US, Canada, South Africa, Europe. There's a different price for different, you pay in your currency, whatever's best for you. So just go to the page if you're interested, click on the yellow button in the top right. It'll tell you what the price is, and it's a huge discount for founder members. What will you get if you join? Well, there's lots of information on the page, but essentially you'll be learning about the 4 key foundations of building a great accounting firm. You get video training from me, and you get live training every single month from the amazing Jessica Fox, which is why I'm glad she's here. So Jessica's amazing, and some people I know here do know Jessica and love her training. So if you're one of those people that wants to start off with my free, I have lots of free stuff. Consume the free stuff, come to these live streams. But when you're ready to take the next step, the Profitable Growth Academy is a good first step to working with me and my team. The other thing, very quickly before I get into questions, just in case you came late, I have 2 live streams next week. The first one is I have a special guest, our head of marketing, Emily, and Emily and I will be talking about what's hot in marketing right now. For 2023, what are the best ways to grow your accounting firm? That's Tuesday of next week. And then on Wednesday of next week, I'm really excited to again have Emily on, and we'll be talking about how you can get on board with ChatGPT. And we're going to look at practical use cases, things that you can do straight away to start saving you huge amounts of time. And you may have seen the comments earlier of some people who are using it and getting great results. So that's Wednesday of next week. So mark out Tuesday and Wednesday in your calendar. Okay, let me now answer questions. I have no idea how many questions have come in. So I'm just going to search for people who typed in QQ first. If you asked a question and didn't put the QQ in front, I might potentially miss it, so you might want to retype it. So I think we have a few questions come in. So here's the first one. Lisa, hi there, Lisa. I have never managed yet to determine my ideal client. How can I do this? Okay, great question. So I touched on it a little bit. So one way of identifying your ideal client is to look at your best clients right now. Who are your best clients? Who do you love working with? And think about what are the characteristics of those. Is there anything that they've got in common? Is it about the type of business? It could be a personality thing. And that's fine. Personality is really important because we're in the relationship business. People buy from people they like. And so you will tend to find that your best clients are very similar to you in terms of personality. So that's one thing you could do. Another thing that you might want to do is ask yourself the opposite question. What sort of clients do I really not like dealing with? So I talk a lot about you need to really niche and be clear on who. The more you niche, the more successful you will be. And sometimes people struggle with that because they don't know what they should choose. So at least start by eliminating those that you don't like. So when I thought about this, I thought, okay, I don't like dealing with, this was me personally back in 1998, I don't like dealing with farmers, I don't like dealing with lawyers, and I started to think about the types of business I didn't like to deal with. Didn't like charities or non-profits because I didn't understand the stuff there. So think about the industries the sectors that you don't know much about, you don't enjoy. Think about other things about your client. Think about your worst clients. What is it that you don't like about dealing with them? Is it their personality? Is it because they're a small business? Are they slow to pay you? Do they not make enough money to pay you? What might it be? What are the characteristics of those clients you don't like dealing with? So start off with, if it's easier, start off with a non-ideal client profile. What are the characteristics and things you do not want? And that should help you to at least get started on that journey. If you've got that non-ideal client profile, then you can use that when you are considering whether to meet somebody or not. Another idea, when you are thinking about niching and narrowing down, another thing you might want to do. Sometimes people say, yeah, I don't know which industry. I know I need to niche. I know I need to pick an industry. I need to specialize, but I don't know which one to choose. So again, think of your clients and think of, is there a particular client in a particular industry where you're fascinated by the industry? You're really interested in that industry. You love, I think of many of you know Teresa Slack, who's one of the trainers in the Value Pricing Academy. She works with e-commerce businesses and she's just fascinated by e-commerce. She loves the tech that's involved and how you integrate different techs and Shopify and PayPal and all of that. She's become a real expert in that area. That's her niche. She doesn't do anything else. She loves that space. So is there a particular type of industry where you are fascinated and you want to learn more about it? In which case, become the expert in that industry. You only need one client to become an expert. I think about many years ago, one of the things I started to specialize in was dentists. I had a handful of dentist clients and I really enjoyed working with dentists, dental practices. So I started learning more about dental practices, and the more I started learning, and I learned just by the couple of clients I had to start with, just by dealing with them, I asked them questions. So how in the UK we had a big thing about going private and all the rules around dentistry. I'd ask them questions, and I was curious. I wanted to know more, and I started to learn more about that industry. And when I then started working with or looking for other dentists, I knew the right words to say. I knew what to say to position me as being the expert in their industry. I understand them. You only need one or two clients right now who you can start to learn from to then suddenly have this expertise and then start finding more. Lisa, I hope that helps. Let me move on to another question, which I think was from Cassie. Cassie says, do you have any tips for how to politely say no if you can tell from the intake form that they're not the ideal client? Yes, great question. So yes, you do want to have a system for saying no to people. You need to be comfortable with saying no. But my advice is always never burn bridges. Always do it in a friendly way. Explain why. So you might say, for example, let's say that you want to deal with clients that are ambitious, want to grow their business, want to work closely with their accountant, and you know as a consequence of that they will be paying premium prices. So you want to be a premium price firm. And you get the feeling this person's, based on your questions, they probably can't afford you. They probably won't want all the things that you do. So what I would do is say something like, the sorts of clients we work with are ambitious business owners wanting to grow their business, wanting to work closely with their accounting professional, and clients that are more than happy to pay a premium price because they know they get more value from the advisory work that we do. And looking at your business, I don't think that you can afford our fees at this point in time. So give them a reason, explain why. I don't think you can afford us at this point in time. And then what you want to do is, but always give them a way out. In other words, give them a next step, give them a recommendation, give them advice. And that might be very simply recommending they speak to somebody else. It may be there's a cheap accountant, a cheap bookkeeper down the road, which is okay. They're cheap and cheerful, and you might recommend them. I think you're going to be, and then so your script or your email is going to be something like, I actually recommend you speak to ABC accountants down the road. They work with clients just like you. They are not as expensive. I think they'll fit with your budget better. And they'll say thank you to that. Oh, thank you. Okay, I'll do that. You might find they turn around and say, no, I am happy to pay a higher price. You never know. They might then say, no, I do want to be part of your club. I do want to be one of these ambitious business owners. And that's also great. But that's how I would do it. Explain why, in a nice way, why they don't fit your profile. Reiterate the sort of client you're looking for. Explain why you don't feel they fit with that. And then give them an alternative. Typically, a recommendation would be a great one to do. Cassie, I hope that helps. Then we get, is it Sunny? I'm not sure. I know that's your business name. You were here yesterday. I know Sunny. So I'm going to use Sunny until you tell me otherwise, because I know you made lots of comments yesterday and asked some great questions as well. Anyway, Mark, what are your thoughts about charging a fee for the diagnostic review and then applying that fee or part of it to their first invoice? You do not need to do that. It's interesting you asked that question, because that was exactly a question that Jan Boda asked me when I helped her on her cleanup project. So when we were working on it together, she came back to me with a version that said, and if you hire us, we will deduct the $250 from the fee. And I said, don't do that. And the reason for that was two reasons for not doing that. I mean, you can if you want, but my two reasons for not doing that is, number one, if in that initial meeting you are genuinely delivering value, and I almost certainly expect you will be, when you meet with somebody, you will deliver value because you have so much knowledge, so much stuff up here, you will deliver value. So if you're delivering value, whether they hire you or not, why would you give them a refund? Why would you take it into account in terms of the next stage of the project? Because if you've delivered value, then you can keep that money, and they've agreed to pay you that money. They've agreed to the meeting. And then the second issue is there's always the possibility that the client's a bit skeptical when you say that. I would probably be thinking this. If you said to me, Mark, yes, you can have a meeting with me. It's going to cost you $200. And if you decide to hire me, we'll knock the $200 off. I would be thinking, no, I know what you're doing. When you come up with the fee for the project, you're going to add $200 onto the price. So then when you give me then knock the $200 off, I'm back at the same price. I'm still, so I would just be a bit suspicious with that. Perhaps that's me. Perhaps I'm just a bit weird, which is very possible, but I would be suspicious. So I would just keep it really simple. You're going to deliver huge amounts of value in this initial diagnostic, this initial meeting. Other people value it and are happy to pay that fee. It's $200, it's $300, whatever, and keep it simple. And then, so hope that helps there. Right, let me move on. We've got how long left? 7 minutes left. I think at the moment we've got a couple more questions I can see. I'm looking at those that have put QQ in, like Sunny did, because I've searched on the QQ. So if you asked a question I didn't, and you haven't put that in, I might miss it. Skylar, I think a couple of questions, or maybe part 1 and part 2. Let me just read this. Skylar says, how do I set pre-qualifier for ideal client personality? I'm comfortable with as its intangibles. Just bear me a second. Example, I dislike aggressive clients, so how do I frame my pre-qualifiers to reflect this? When it comes to personality, you'll need to have some creativity. There's a firm in the US based, if I remember right, they're in Portland and somewhere in California. Dan Morris is his name. He has a great pre-qualification system, very successful firm. There are some interesting questions as part of their customer intake form. They ask questions like, one of the questions is, what is your favorite movie? And I thought that's an interesting question, but it's just questions to try and get to understand the client a bit better. So you might want to be a bit creative when it comes to thinking about some questions to discover personality. Now, the other way that you could do it, Skylar, and something I teach in the Value Pricing Academy is I teach the importance of having a 2 or even 3 meeting approach with a potential new client. And my advice would be, one of the things you might want to consider is that the very first meeting you have with somebody is A, on Zoom, or whatever equivalent you use to Zoom, is A, on Zoom, and B, it's 15 minutes and no more than 15 minutes. And the purpose of the meeting is one thing and one thing only: to determine whether you both feel you're a good fit for each other. And if at the end of those 15 minutes you feel, yeah, I like that client, I think they're going to be good, then you go and book at the end of that meeting the next stage of the meeting, which might be an hour, hour and a half, whatever it might well be. But start off with a shorter meeting. So you still might have the questions, and the questions might be questions around factual things like size of business, industry, and so on. But then you take them to a 15-minute meeting, and that's to see if you like them or not. It's something I've been teaching in the Value Pricing Academy as part of what we call the appointment generation system for several years. And interestingly, we have just this week, we've hired a digital marketing company to help us with some Facebook ads, and their system was exactly what we teach. So a week ago, I booked a 15-minute meeting, and I knew the process because this is what I teach. It was the person who we hired. In 15 minutes, he asked a series of questions. There were questions he clearly asked everybody the same questions. They were questions for him to determine whether I was the sort of person serious enough to want to grow the business through Facebook ads. And it was exactly 15 minutes. It finished exactly on 15 minutes. At the end of it, he then said, well, I think we can work together. If you're happy to take the next step, we have a 1-hour call, and here's my calendar link to book it. I booked it there, and then we had the 1-hour call, and then we signed up. It's a really elegant, simple system of using that 15-minute call to be doubly sure that they're the right person before you waste time traveling to their premises. If you do that, before you waste time having a 2-hour meeting, and so on. Okay, we have 3 minutes left. I'm now just skimming through to see if there are any questions where somebody didn't put the QQ in front. There is still, I've got time for one more question. If one comes up, let me see. I'm just waiting for a question to come up. I'm also just looking at some of those earlier comments that some of you are saying about Chat GTP. Stacey started playing with it. Bob's got clients in that particular space, so he's playing with it. Bill's asked it to do some content marketing. We'll talk about that, how a way of doing that next week. So great to see that you've got started with that. Alan says he's just seen a demo. Amazing. You'll get hooked on it, I promise. You'll get hooked on it in a great way. But do be aware of the downsides, the limitations. So Mickey's got no knowledge of it. Esperanza, I don't know if that's your real name or not, but I'll see you on Wednesday. I look forward to that. Okay, have we got, let me see. I'm just skipping to the end, see if a question's come in. I can't see any. Oh yes, there's a question coming. Right, well, this is the last question. It'll be a short one, Lisa. We have 60 seconds. 60 seconds. Lisa says, is the initial consultation meeting the same as the 2 to 3 meetings before they become clients? How does that work? Okay, very quickly, Lisa. I recommend you have either a 2 or 3 meeting system. So the optional one is the one I just said. So you might want a 15-minute meeting, which is very structured, series of questions, and the 15-minute meeting is to identify if you're a good fit or not. Whether you have that or not, the next meeting is about then you uncovering the information you need to be able to properly diagnose their problem, come up with the right solution, and also to help you to price. We should not give a price in that first meeting, certainly not in the 15-minute meeting, but even when you then sit down for a 45-minute, 1 hour, 1.5 hour meeting, that should be focused on asking questions. We want to uncover things about the client, about their challenges, their problems, the pain they're in. We shouldn't be giving them answers and solutions and recommendations and a price at that point in time. We need to go away and think about what they've said, the notes we've made from the meeting, and we want to make sure that we create a solution that best meets their needs. And so that middle meeting, that second meeting, is all about asking great questions. It's something that I know some of you in the Value Pricing Academy, we do a lot of training around that. That's really important, about asking the right questions. And the reason for this, very quickly then, because I know we're out of time now, the reason for that is that clients don't often know what they want. If a client comes to you and says, I want a cash flow forecast, can you do me a cash flow forecast? And you say, yes, I can do a cash flow forecast and it's going to cost you $1,000, then you are absolutely doing the wrong thing for them, because nobody wants a cash flow forecast. I've never ever gone into a business premises and seen in their reception area on the wall, nicely framed, a cash flow forecast. There is no value in a cash flow forecast. The value is in what it's going to do for them. And we have to understand that. We have to ask questions. Why do they want a cash flow forecast? We have to uncover what is the real issue, because it may be there's something else we should be doing as part of our solution. We might still do the cash flow forecast, but there may be other things that are going to help them solve what is the real problem. And we don't know what the real problem is until we ask the right questions. Very often the client doesn't ask the right thing. They don't know what you can do. They don't really know what the problem is. They just say, oh, I need someone to do my bookkeeping. I need someone to do a cash flow forecast. There's probably a lot more to it than that. There's probably some pain points, some challenges that they've got. We have to ask those questions. We have to go deep. We have to properly understand so we can give a better solution. And when we give a better solution, we create more value to the client. We solve their real problems. And when we solve their real problems, we can charge premium prices. Lisa, I hope that was okay. That was a really quick answer to actually what is something we could talk about for a long time. It's a very important topic. So thank you for asking that question. Anyway, we're out of time. So I will see many of you next week. My next live stream is Tuesday, which is about how to grow your firm, the best things that are working in marketing in 2023. And Wednesday is all about ChatGPT. So get ready to ask me your marketing questions and your ChatGPT questions. As usual, I will play out with some music for 2 or 3 minutes. Gives me a chance to catch up and read the comments in the chat box. Enjoy the rest of the week. See you next week. Bye for now.
I wasted all my time, I wasted all my nights, I wasted it on someone who's indifferent. He didn't love me right, he told me I was blind, but I never really wanted to listen. You have been here since day one, see my ups and downs, never left my side once, yeah you stuck around. Who knew it was you? You have been here all along, you have always been the one, yeah who knew it was you? You have always been the one, that's the truth. You have been here all along. I never saw the signs, he didn't treat me right, but I just couldn't let him go. You waited patiently, you waited for me, you showed me what it was to love. You have been here since day one, seen my ups and downs, never left my side once, yeah you stuck around. Who knew it was you? You have been here all along, you have always been the one, yeah who knew it was you? You have always been the one, that's the truth. You have been here all You have been here all along. You have been here since day one. I